I am packing, halfway through packing. Oh my god, is that wheel broken? I don't know. Okay. I am about to finish packing for my journey back to LA. I feel like I'm moving to LA for real this time. And a part of me is really nervous and hesitant to really just say it, you know? Because the last 2 years that I've been there have been very tentative. They've been almost as if I just needed to take my time to get to know the place and get to know people there. Not just there, but also in other cities in the US, and just evaluate my options. And I do know that a part of me will frequent New York. Like, I will probably go there for work. And at the same time, my body really feels at peace with itself in LA. Yeah, which is strange, which is very strange. So I have this feeling, I don't know how it's all gonna unfold logically. Although I just know it's unfolding in my gut, For me, I didn't know, if there are a few things I could tell my younger self from this stage of my life, I guess. I mean, I'm in my early 30s now, and I don't regret the life I had in my 20s. Even though I'm still a little sad about certain doors that I didn't keep knocking on. But I don't know if I would change the path that I took and that I'm taking now. So I had thought of myself, like, I thought I was going to live in London in the UK and become an actor there. For many reasons. And yet, even though there is a part of me that has adopted a lot of British tendencies, and I am a gin lover. I still am a lover of gin. And I still prefer the tube to the subway. Although the MRT is still the best, I'm not gonna lie. And there is a part of me that regrets. Well, I don't regret in the sense of like I don't regret because I could choose different in a sense. I regret not being born in the right time to be the actor I want to be in Singapore. Or maybe it wasn't my path. At least not now. Not yet. And the opportunity that I received and I'm receiving now in the US is just aligned with me, you know? Like, I have this opportunity to join the Adler lineage. And there are other Singaporeans who have done that, yes. Yet, this is my life, right? And I know I would regret it if I did not choose it now. Which is wild because when I was younger, I dreamed of applying and going to RADA. And I had thought that I would, after I finally got my Tier 1 visa to live in the UK, I thought I would become a PR there and become an actor there like Ian McKellen, right? And Tom Hiddleston, Laurence Olivier, all of whom share no background with me. Like, I'm talking about 3 white British men born into the UK, and there I am, a Commonwealth citizen of an independent country. Like, why would I regress and go back? I had reached this point where I thought, you know, it's so beautiful to be in such an international city, such as London, and yet the reason we were all there was because of colonialism. And because the resources from our countries were pooled into this one country, which is now in a weird place, financially anyway. And I don't want to be involved, you know? Like, I had voted in a British election as a resident who is part of the Commonwealth. Like, as a Commonwealth citizen, I was allowed to vote in British elections because I was a resident there, which is fascinating to me, you know, like it's wild in a way. Like I never expected the first time I would ever vote in any elections to be in the UK, and I did that. And I ended up doing a lot of really good work in the tech industry. I learned a lot, and if there is one thing I would tell my younger self, the only thing that I think would actually change my life in a more positive way, or in a way that I felt would have, like, if there is one thing I wish I'd known back then, it is that I'm gonna translate this Chinese saying that I've heard recently, or that I read recently from the Tao Te Ching by Lao Tzu, which is that knowing others is wisdom, and knowing yourself is intelligence. Well, the word Ming is a lot more than just about cleverness or intelligence. It's also like, it has to do with the eyes, it's insight, it's clarity and intelligence. There's not really a way to really translate that word in its entirety in the same meaning that you would have in the Chinese language. But perhaps discernment. But discernment applies to both knowing others and yourself. So difficulties of a multilingual existence. Anyway, what was it? Is it 知人智 or is it 知己? That word when they say, it's like the chim, the fancy way, the posh way. I don't know. Maybe the posh way of saying knowing others in Chinese. No, that's yourself. Oh gosh, 知智是明. Yeah, knowing others is 智慧的智, right? Knowing others is wisdom. Knowing yourself is kind of, is clarity and intelligence, if I were to sum it up. That's what I would tell my younger self. Because, if there was one thing I would have done differently when I was a young 20-something-year-old ambitious person trying to find a way to fund my life so that I could freely become an actor on my own terms, which is a lot of pressure for a 7. I mean, I think I decided at 18 that was what I was going to do. Yeah. That's a lot of pressure to put on yourself at an 18-year-old age. But if there was one thing I would tell myself, it would be that, discernment, clarity, and not to be so forgiving of others that you forget yourself. I think that, yes, we do forgive to be able to move on in life, and yet being overly giving at the expense of oneself doesn't help anyone, really. And it's very blinding. And boundaries, right? I think that would have helped me to navigate a lot of my life, my younger life, better. Because it's so easy for me to look at someone else's life and know, okay, I know why they did this to me, and I know why they're doing this and why they're behaving like that, but that doesn't solve the problem. It doesn't make, it's a way of intellectualizing the problem, right? It's not respectful to yourself if you overgive. Because, and here's the reason why, right? Because all of that comes back to bite you in the butt when you realize, what do you have left to give? you have a cup for a reason. You know, I would tell myself that. I would tell my younger self, you have your own cup for a reason. And you are allowed to drink from your own cup. Which is just fascinating to me. Like, just because people look at you and assume you have more, or you are more, or you do more, doesn't mean you need to handicap yourself just so that they think it's fair. Because that actually can be, I mean, it's not like you're doing it to be condescending. It's just that you just don't want to take up your space, and that's not fair on you, and it's just not fair in general. Like, you can't help it if cards were dealt differently. And actually, you might think, yeah, like to some people, they might think, oh, that's being a gracious person or a gracious winner or whatever. And to other people who are working their arses off, like they may actually think it's condescending and just as if, like, even if you don't see yourself as better than them, it's almost like you're saying, like, you were given more and therefore you have to wait for 30 seconds before you actually get to do anything. And that's just not fair on anybody. You can't live your life like that. You can't live your life playing small. Because there are so many other people out there who have way more than you do. And they're not stopping for anybody. They're taking advantage of you, of those people that you are in turn deceiving in a way. It's not a malicious deception, but it's more like an omission of the truth. It's not your fault that people are dealt different cards in life. Just because the news and opinion columns and social media likes to make it so loud and it likes to amplify the reality of inequality does not mean that you're handicapping yourself is gonna make things more equal, you know? Or even equitable for others. Because that's what we really want, right? That's what we want. More equitable access to resources and opportunities. Because the opportunity is not about just having the thing. Sometimes people want to be able to earn it. Sometimes people just want to be able to ask for it. Right? And if you just give it to them, it's kind of like robs them of the opportunity to even critically think about it for themselves and ask themselves if that is what they really want. You can't give other people your light if it's yours to shine. Sure, like, reflections exist and are valid. But those are two different objects, right? But that light can be amplified by the two different objects. Anyway, I'm speaking metaphors now and images. Yes. A little bit poetic, little bit of poetry for a Sunday night. I just visited a synagogue in Singapore, which was very beautiful. Yeah. I learned a lot. It was for a service. Someone said something to me which was very encouraging from an older place in life. Like, yeah, like, you know, when you get to that age in life where you're just like, well, YOLO. It's kind of like the true definition of YOLO. It's like, I've already done all this stuff, and I'm just gonna tell you, life is, we come and we go, you know? Like, so you gotta do what you're here to do. And he kind of, well, he didn't say it in those words, but he said something to that effect about, like, really embracing the passion that we are called to and living the life that is meant for you. And I needed to hear that today. Yeah, because I don't like the fact that I have to leave Singapore to be the actor I want to be. You know, I don't like the reality that I'm literally the tallest, or I'm like too tall to be the love interest or the pretty girl in Singapore. And too intimidating for some reason. I don't like it. And I mean, my English is so bad. Anyway, my English is just so bad. And I do feel like if I don't want to force it, you know, and I do feel like if I stay here, I would be forced into like an executive producer kind of role way too early on in my career. I'm barely 30. Like, I'm in my early 30s. Like, that's frankly, like, I have a life to live, and I don't want to delay my acting any longer. So yeah, I know when I get back to LA, it's gonna be work. It's gonna be full swing. I have so much work to do, and I'm so excited to do it. You know, I really took this time to spend time with my parents and my sisters. Maybe saw a couple of friends, but it was mostly for family. And a lot has happened that is beyond my control. A lot happening to people around me. And when I look at my own life, I'm actually grateful, you know? I'm doing a certification that some people may say is privileged, and yet it costs less than my university degree and my A-levels schooling. Like, that's wild. And yet I'm at a point in my life where this kind of expenditure is not easy, because I'm in my early 30s. A part of me does wish I had been given a life and a body and just the 运气, the luck to have had access to what I have access to now when I was 18, 19, when my parents had planned the funding for university and schooling and everything. And at the same time, the school that I'm going to now did not have the program that I am now in back then, which is wild. Like, it was only in New York, right? The LA studio was not as developed as it is now, and this particular technique is the technique I wanted and I needed to study anyway. You know what I mean? Like, and these teachers that I'm learning with, like, who studied directly with Stella and Uta, like, yes, we are all human beings with first names. So I'm just, you know what I mean? Like, it didn't exist in this form. It didn't exist back then, you know? And there are still no acting scholarships in Singapore. Not really. Maybe for the local school here. But they're not teaching Stella Adler, like, Adler technique from a person who trained with Adler in Singapore. And yeah, it is a fraction of the cost of my university degree. And yet, I felt so guilty spending this money when literally I'm surrounded by boys who spend way more on way less. Which is, like, by less, I mean, like, things that will have less of an impact, like a sports car. Like, they spend so much more on Rolexes and sports cars than what I do on the education I always wanted, which is wild to me. Anyway, I don't want to go down a comparison rabbit hole with people whose shoes I'm not walking in right now, at least. I'm not stepping into their shoes in a script yet, but it's a kind of like the way I remind myself not to judge myself for wanting what I want. Yeah. You know? Not having the same circumstances as some of my other classmates who went to drama school right off the bat. Because if there is, because I don't regret the career I had in tech. I don't regret co-founding a startup, being a CTO in the way that I felt I wanted to do. I don't regret having had the ability to hire, to make those decisions on who we can hire and how we hire. You know, I don't regret having worked where I worked. I would look back at myself and tell my younger self to be more discerning. But that is a gift that God has developed in me over time, right? And it's kind of a lot of pressure to put that on a 20-year-old, to be like, be more discerning of the people around you and yourself and what you want and where you're at, you know, and your relationships with people around you. Like, it's a lot of pressure to put on a 23-year-old. Like, so that is to say, I don't regret the choices I made, even if I have had regrets over the cards I was dealt. But I do feel like I'm at this point in my life right now where I'm just letting that go. Like, I'm ready to move on. And I think That's why I'm making this vlog today, this video journal, that I'm deciding I think I will share this with people, because today is the day that I decide to move to LA. Meaning, if I have the opportunity to live there and develop my career there for the next 30 years, I will take it. I don't know how, logistically, logically, it's all gonna happen. I just know it's unfolding right before me, and I'm staying present. I'm walking in my shoes, and the present is a present. There's no better time than now. And after those 30 years, I think probably in the next, I don't know exactly when, but through this experience, I do hope to be able to give back to my home country, build those bridges, and then use that impact, right, to really... One second. I had to check in with my mom, but I'm back. What was I saying? Yes, okay. Yes. I do think that this is my life, and acting is me, like my chosen path. And yeah, if I want to have the impact that I can have, or the maximum impact that I wish to have with my life, I have to take the opportunity right in front of me, you know? And I don't know how it's all gonna work. I mean, my gut feeling is that it will all work out, and that will link back to Singapore in the long run. And it's insane, because which Singaporean in their logical, pragmatic, risk-averse mind decides to move to, in 2026, Trump, Republican, and literally last week, there was the whole tragic situation with the ICE officers, and was it Minneapolis? And a victim of a shooting. Like, I have to just look at the universe and be like, why now? But at the same time, I sit there and I know it's now. It is now. I'm not gonna wait for another 10 years. Not anymore. And I mean, I look back at the time when I was in London, and, you know, the stabbings in London Bridge, Brexit. I lived through that era. Okay, I lived through Boris Johnson as mayor of London, and then PM. It was wild time to be in the UK, and I was there. And I don't know, I guess this is 这就是我的命运. This is 命运. That is the part of the fate that cannot be controlled. You know what I mean? So, but what is in my control? I'm just here. I'm just here. So I'm super excited to go back to LA, because I'm gonna be working on my solo show, which I hope to share more about on this vlog, on this channel. You know, doing a solo show on Song Qingling, Madame Sun Yat-sen. I know it's so close to my heart, and I'm so excited for it. I'm really intimidated by the moment I chose, but that's how I know that I need to do it. You know, I chose this very, very wild moment in her life, and we're gonna do it. And what else? And then we're gonna work on a Shakespeare production, which I'm so excited for. You know, like, I love Shakespeare. Again, I fell back in love with Shakespeare thanks to Nikki Dukas. My first LA, well, she was when I got to LA, she was like one of the teachers who really, like the first few teachers who really, really opened my eyes. I love Shakespeare again, and I'm just really excited to find out which production we're gonna be doing for our cohort, because I'm just so excited. I don't know, I just have this feeling in my body and my gut that's like so happy already, and I don't even know what it is. You know what I mean? So it's like I know it in my gut and in my body and in my heart, even if like my mind is like, okay, God, surprise me, show me, anyway. Yes. And yeah, me and my kitty cat Victoria. I'm so excited, but that's a story for another day. Okay, bye.